Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I am your host, Professor Sides. That's my actual job title and last name, which is part of the reason why the mathematical model that I've built to predict various sports outcomes is affectionately known as Sideline. You will hear more about the model during the course of this episode, set to cover both NFL Conference Championship games scheduled to be played on Sunday, January 29th, 2023. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for some explanations and community rules. Remember that there are no locks in gambling. As always, take what you like and leave the rest. And lastly, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to see will be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. We are sitting at a even 500 here, 5-5 for the playoffs. The under in the Jaguars game, you talked about getting under. Team total 20.5 was the widely available number. And that was a working in play. They got to 20. So that one at least gets us to the one on Sunday gets us to 500. Hopefully we can get above 500 here. I've got 3 picks for you today. One of them could push, and if so, then we're going to stay right at 500. But barring that, we're going to be off 500 one way or the other half of this week and heading into the Super Bowl. But before we get to those picks and reminders, please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free, and if you turn on notifications, you'll miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. And for benefits with respect to those 3 sports, check out Patreon. Lots of goodies over there above and beyond what we do here. Memberships are just $3 per month. www.patreon.com/pickswiththeprofessor is how you get there. But if you're not there, we're still thrilled to have you here. Let's get right to it. Only 2 games, of course, here this weekend, both on Sunday, 2 p.m. Central. 49ers at the Eagles. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites with enough juice that it's trending towards 3. We always talk in college football about how 3 is such a key number, and of course it is. It's even more key in the NFL because of the fact that so many games are tight. In college with more plays, part of the reason there's more blowouts in college is the talent discrepancy is larger. Of course, I mean, the difference between Alabama and Vanderbilt, just being in the same conference, is, a pretty large, right? But in the NFL, you don't have that. But the other reason is the number of plays. When you have more plays being run in college football, so many more possessions, it makes it more likely that one team just scores more than the other and ends up winning by more than one score. In the NFL, you can see weird games where each team has like 2 possessions in the entire first half or something wonky like that you would only see in college football in a service academies game. So because there's tighter scores, that 3 becomes even more key in the NFL. You're probably aware of that. So that's why this number's hanging on at 2.5 minus 120. It could even get to minus 125 if there's more Eagles money before they move it to 3. They're going to really try to hold off on that. If you can get 3 at any point with the 49ers, don't buy to it. They're going to charge you an insane price. That 3 is very valuable. They're still going to charge you more. The idea is, when you go to a steakhouse, it's not to say that steak isn't really good, but you're paying for it. And you may decide that it's worth it for you, obviously, but you're paying more for the steak than the hamburger because the steak's better, right? They're charging you more for it. And that's what's going to happen here. So I wouldn't tell you ever to buy on the 3, because as much as it is a good thing to have the 3, they're still charging you more than what you're getting. So I wouldn't buy the 3, but if you ever see a 3 where that's the price that they're offering you, even if it is juiced a little bit, I would jump all over the 3 with the 49ers. As it is, I'm still going to take 2.5 even money, as we've talked about. We've seen with the moving back of the extra point, it creates a situation where if there's a penalty on either the touchdown or on the conversion, we've already seen it once this playoffs, you move it a yard closer, and now the math makes sense in a lot of situations to go for 2. We've seen mixed extra points. You can end up with a bunch of weird field goals. I mean, you just see a lot of weird things happening. The probability of the game landing on 1 or 2 is a lot greater than it was, say, 5 years ago. And so I still think 2.5, especially at even money, offers a lot of value in the 49ers. You can also look money line. Current price I'm seeing is in the 120 to 125 range. You can split your bet up a little bit. Knowing in the NFL just how likely and how, you see a lot of games land at 1 and 2, I personally am just going to stick to the 2.5. That doesn't mean the 49ers can't win. That doesn't mean they don't win. I think there's value on the 2.5 or the money line. It's just what I like to do here, because I personally, in this situation, I'm not going to split my bet. I don't want to be at the end of the game and hypothetically it's, a 1 or 2 point game or something where it's happening. I'm kind of like conflicted at what I'm rooting for. So I'm just going to stick to the plus 2.5. And if you want to split your bet or go money line, I think that makes sense. I think there's value in the Niners here. I think we're having a hard time catching up to just how good this team is, how good this defense is. And Brock Purdy is doing just enough, doing more than enough, doing more than we ever thought he would at this level. He was obviously a great college quarterback. As a Big 12 fan, I saw a lot of him at Iowa State. doing a phenomenal job. And he's not, the next Tom Brady, but he's doing a pretty dang good job with this team. Again, with how good that defense is, that the Eagles are good. They looked really good last week for sure against the Giants. One of our two losses, the only one that wasn't even close, right? At least with the Cowboys, we were in that. We took 4 and 3.5, whatever we took, and they lost by 7, and they could have easily covered that, right? That one, whatever. We weren't even close with the Giants. I think that says more about the Giants. I think it says more about the Vikings also, which was a game that we knew at the time, had a lot of question marks for both teams. I think this is more about that than the Eagles. The Eagles aren't a bad team. Don't get me wrong. They're still a very good football team. But I've got the Niners team as better than the Eagles. And obviously this game's in Philadelphia. It's across the country. It's a little bit earlier in the day, right? So you do have to consider that. But I think in this spot, it's not early enough. It's not the, 1 Eastern kickoff. It's a 3 Eastern kickoff. So it's noon local time for them. So I don't think it's early enough. I think this 49ers team is better. I think they got a good chance to win, or if they'll keep it close. If they keep it close, back in the day, I would have said I'm taking money line if I can't get 3. But now I'll just go ahead and take the 2.5. I like the even money as well. Against me, the bottom line is Niners team I think is better than the Eagles are. Right now, I've got them power rate higher. With regards to the total, it's 46. It's a complete pass for me. I think it's a pretty well-priced total. The weather should be fine. Looks like a nice day, decent weather. No real concerns on that front. And you got 2 top 10 offenses, 2 offenses that are pretty good. It's just you have potentially the 2 best defenses in the NFL playing against each other here. So you do have a little bit more of a lean to the defense with regards to how talented the defenses are, but with also nice weather. The total down at 46, it's not high enough for me to go under and talk about those defenses, but it's not low enough where I just would say out of principle we're going over as well. I think it's a pretty well-priced total. It's between all the sides and totals, the one total I'm just going to pass on and focus my investment on the 49ers, who, again, I think got a good chance to go and win. I think they're the better team and better team on the road. Talk about being a coin flip type situation, and that's kind of what we have here, as Sideline says this is Eagles on average wins by 1 point. So it gives them roughly a low 50% chance of winning, more or less a coin toss game. So in a coin toss game, you could give me the plus odds of the money line, or again, what I'm going to do is grab the even money at plus 2.5. Which takes us to the night game. And obviously, I mean, there's so much to talk about here, right? Number one, you got maybe the 2 best offenses in the league going against each other. And again, kind of like I mentioned, the flip of that first game, the defenses aren't bad. It's just that these offenses are incredible. And then obviously all the drama around Mahomes. Is he going to be at 100%? Number one, I'm not buying really anything that's being said at this point, one way or the other. And the reason why is I have no reason to believe anything that's being said, because why would the Chiefs? They don't really have an incentive to tell the whole truth. So I just don't really know. Maybe they are. I'm just saying I have no idea. If Mahomes is 100%, why not put some doubt in the Bengals' mind so that they're thinking about something else? If he's not 100%, why give that away to them, right? So there's just no reason really to believe anything. So I have no idea what's going to happen with regards to Mahomes. I think the way now ankles are weird, right? But otherwise, in general, the way I tend to operate is if he's healthy enough to, in a game where they had the lead, and it wasn't locked up, but they had the lead, and he's healthy enough to the day of the injury go out in the second half and play, I think he's going to be out there. Now, there are some situations, absolutely. You have adrenaline, you have the freshness of the injury, it's swelling up later. I get all that, but he does have a full week. I think he's going to be out there and playing. The bigger question to me isn't if he plays. The bigger question is what percent is he? Is he 100%? Is he 95%? Is he 80%? Is he 70%? And obviously, as we all know, 70% of Patrick Mahomes is still better than half the starting quarterbacks in the NFL. So I think he'll still be out there. I still think he'll be good. You do have to wonder exactly the mobility he'll have. Will that limit some of their play calling in quarterback sneak type situations, or in situations where, they don't, this isn't college, right? They're not doing the zone read, left and right. They're not running options left and right. But these are the types of games now, this one and the next one, right? Where that's the kind of stuff you bust out because you're doing it, you're not holding anything back. And so maybe now they can't do some of that. That's the big question mark. But in general, I still think that even if you consider a tiny bit of downgrading to Mahomes, I still think Chiefs -1 is a great investment. Obviously, at -1, if the Chiefs win this game, there is no way that we can lose this bet. We can push. We talked about landing on 1 or 2 is a lot more likely. So -1 versus -1.5 actually kind of does matter a little bit here. There is a little bit extra probability that we're gaining. So shop around, make sure you get a -1, not a -1.5. But the model says -2.8. And even if I ding Mahomes a little bit, I can't get that number below 2. I still think that 2 would be the lowest I would make this number. So at 1, I think there's a little bit of value, a little bit of overreaction, a little bit maybe of hedging of, if he's not, not 100% not going to play or whatever. And like I said, I'm not sure he'll be 100%, but I do think he'll be out there. If he's not, it is what it is. It's gambling, right? But I just have to assume that he's going to be out there unless things are a lot worse than they normally would be. Because if it's so bad he can't play the next week in a game that is obviously a must win, you have to assume it would have been worse day of. And that's not always the case with injuries, right? Not always, but 9 times out of 10, that's kind of the way it goes. That if this was just a normal week, be much more likely, much more questionable, much more maybe he's not going to play. But I don't think this falls in that category. So I'm going to assume he's out there. Again, I just can't get below 2. Model says 2.8. Again, 2 to 3 is where I think this number should be. I think you might also be getting a little bit of value because this narrative about the Bengals beating the Chiefs in the last 3 games, but all 3 of those games were great, tight contests. And if I remember correctly, one of them, the Chiefs were actually way ahead and just kind of like let off the gas and let the Bengals back in the game. So I don't really make a lot of that. I think that's a little bit of a statistical faux pas, right? In looking at a result of a game as a binary win-loss. And I get that win-loss is all that matters at the end. If you're on the field, you don't really care. If you lose by 1 or lose by 100, you still lost. I get that. I was an athlete, right? When I was out there and I lost 7-6, it didn't make me feel any better than if we lost 7-0. I get it. Baseball, not football. But that's not the most informative going forward. The most informative way to go forward is looking at how the games played out, the point differential, diving into it, et cetera, and avoiding the win-loss, which means not really a lot. And what I mean by that is if you know all of the other things, if you know the plays, you know the yards, you know how the game played out, you know the final score differential, adding in the win or loss doesn't give you, even if you didn't know the final score differential, but you knew all the other stuff about yards and everything, adding in the final win-loss doesn't improve your forecasting abilities, doesn't actually help you anymore, tell you what happened going forward. So the fact that the Bengals won the last 3, I don't think it really matters. Now, had the Bengals won the last 3 in different fashion, it would, but that's what I'm talking about is how the games played out, the yards, the score at the half, the score at the end of the third quarter, all those other details, right, tell us that these 2 teams are relatively even matched. And again, Chiefs at home, one of the better home field advantages. I'm all over the Chiefs here at -1. I think it's a great investment opportunity. I think it's a great buy low coming off this narrative of the Bengals, who are fantastic and probably the second best team in football. I just think that the Chiefs are a tiny bit better. And I'm not sure that Mahomes is injured so much that that's going to flip that to allow the Bengals to, on average, win this game. Now, one game, and in football, we know how this goes, right? Because, the turnover battle can completely swing it, and sometimes the better team doesn't win. But in general, if they play this game enough times, I think the Chiefs win more often than not, even if Mahomes is a little bit banged up. So on the Chiefs -1. I'm also going to take the over, 47.5. 48 is kind of one of your quasi-key numbers right here, given the fact that is 6 touchdowns and 2 field goals, and you got the 2 best offenses in the league. And I think there's a little bit of value here off of maybe a little bit of Mahomes stuff, maybe a little bit of weather narrative that I'm just not really buying into. There's not going to be a lot of wind is what it looks like right now, that the wind will be a little bit more in the morning, dying down as the night goes along. This is an evening game. And the fact that there's not a lot of wind means that we should get mostly full offense. Now, not completely, because it will be cold as can be out there, and that's going to affect it a little bit. But these players are used to playing in this cold weather. You got 2 teams in the Midwest where it's been cold, so it's not like they're not used to it. And it's not so cold that I think it's going to make things just grind to a halt. It will be in the teens is what it looks like. So really cold weather, but not a lot of wind. And again, the wind and the rain are the worst things, and so without expecting a lot of that, I don't think the weather's going to have too much of an effect on this. I think the offenses are able to exert their dominance in this. We've seen in general more higher scoring playoffs than usual. So I'm going to ride this over again because I'm getting the win on 48. The highest I'd take the over is at 48. 47 would be even better because 47 can happen in the NFL. The colder ball, less likely to have field goals as well, because the ball's not going to travel a little bit harder So the field goal is actually a little bit less likely, which might lead to a little bit more aggressive football, which gets us more touchdowns, which also helps the over. So a lot of reasons to like the over here at a number like 47.5. Again, I'd really love 47, but even 47.5 and 48, I think are still solid investments. I think the offenses can rule the day. And I think the Chiefs come out of this with a victory. And that's all we've got for you here today. Best of luck this weekend in all of your college basketball. If you dabble in the NBA or the NHL, and of course your NFL wagering. As always, thanks for watching this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can show all sports betting content we've run on this channel is dropped right into your feed. Be back again later on with your college basketball breakdown for Saturday. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.